Hey there, this is Perch, and I want to talk a little bit about paying your dues. This is one of those statements that I've always disliked. And on the surface, there's nothing wrong with it. Paying your dues simply means gaining some respect for the industry that you're about to go into, uh, learning the trade, learning what it takes to work with others and to achieve and to get things done, and to not take for granted that you can just show up one day and be a master. You need to pay your dues to achieve. And I think on the surface it's fine, but the reason why the statements always bug me, and especially when it applies to comics, is it's often used as a gate. It's used not to encourage talent, but actually to hold talent in check or to leave some people in existing positions and not let the work speak for itself. And so I think that's the actually the apt phrase that I use is does the work speak for itself? If somebody comes in, whether they're a writer, an editor, a colorist, a penciler, an inker, a drawer, whatever they happen to be, marketing, not that there's any of those, but whatever position it is, paying your dues should be coming in and achieving. It should be coming in and accomplishing something. I paid my dues by coming in and proven that I understand what I'm doing, that I take proper care and respect the field I'm getting into. That's paying your dues, and that's perfectly fine. I'm all for that. In fact, not only for it, I demand it. I think people who go into comics or go into any business should know the business they're going into, should educate themselves on that business, and should not force other people to work harder because they don't know what they're doing. And in a lot of cases, this is where paying your dues came from. It came from the idea that you're going to come in and from day one, you're not going to know the ropes. And so somebody else is going to have to pick up the slack, and you're for a while you're going to make other people work harder. You're at least going to make other people have to train you and be accommodating to you. So you need to pay your dues kind of as a return respect for people helping show you how to work your way into the business. But paying your dues is also something that typically people should work aggressively at to pay those dues, to prove themselves, to show that they belong in the industry. Paying your dues shouldn't be a 10-year slog of having to, hide your talent or be put down from people who are maybe undeserving of holding the role above you, or people who just, because they got there first, they're ahead of you, even though talent wise they're not there. I think there's paying your dues, learning the business, and then there's achieving something through sales and accomplishment that is a different story. So, like I said, it's a statement that often irks me because it is used less about learning a trade and more about keeping somebody back. And I think it's funny. I've been to a lot of cons, and I've been to a number of the after parties and the private parties, the creative parties, the retailer parties, on and on and on, parties. And it's not uncommon to hear that phrase get thrown out a lot, where somebody will say, well, this particular artist, this particular writer, they've got a couple okay stories, but they need to pay their dues before we'll really give them a notice. And this statement has been applied to people who had some kind of fan support, who were seen as kind of a hot new thing coming onto the scene, so to speak. And we get this person needs to pay their dues, which is really just a publisher, an editor, or somebody. In this case, it was an editor saying this. It's really their way of saying, I'm not going to invest a lot of time into really researching why this person is popular or why this person is getting a groundswell of support. I'm just gonna, I'm going to let some more time go by, and then I'll snap them up when I'm ready, which is an attitude that the bigger publishers often have. But it also, in doing so, it reveals that editor, that person is not so good at their job, because if you find new talent, if you strike gold and bring something new and amazing to the market that sells well and gains a lot of attention, that's you doing your job well. That's you. That's you really bringing something of huge value to the company. So I've always thought, here's somebody who is both, going to get outstripped by a younger, hungrier, faster editor who will recognize and cultivate the talent, and somebody who just kind of wants to position themselves above this upcoming talent. The sadder one though is when I hear people self-admit this, like, well, I've done some drawings, I've done some work here, but I don't want to really push myself. I don't want to really get these pages in front of anyone until I paid my dues. Like, why would you voluntarily step into handcuffs? Why would you? That doesn't make any sense. You don't put handcuffs there, but why would you put the handcuffs around your own wrists? Why would you intentionally decide on a strategy that is going to set you back? If you have talent, you should be hungry and chomping at the bit to go prove it. Not from an arrogant standpoint, not from a where you ignore the people around you or you get too big of a head. But if you think you can achieve, go swing for the fences. Now is the time to really make something of yourself. And I think that's where paying your dues becomes more of a trap than a benefit, or certainly has a lot more to do with holding back than respect. The comic industry is funny. I mean, it goes in cycles. I think we've talked about this before. It tends to go in 15, 20-year cycles, and we're heading up on another pretty big change now. And I think there are definitely some people who have some nervousness around it. This one's going to be more, I predict this change is going to be a little bit more jarring than some of the ones before it because of all the changes that have happened in publishing and in the industry and in how comics are distributed, and the fact that you've got some big names. You got these big mega corporations, two of the largest media corporations now owning the top two publishers. So that adds another wrinkle to things. But it's we're definitely in for some big shifts, and you're in for people having to pay their dues, if you will, in a whole new way. You're gonna, if you paid your dues to get into comics, well, now that you're part of a giant media empire with huge publishers and huge entertainment companies, now you have to pay your dues. Veterans of comics, if you hold that same logic, have to pay their dues in a whole new way that probably won't be terribly pleasant with some of these industries. So that's paying your dues. I mean, I get you definitely always, please don't read into this and hear that I think, work doesn't matter and learning the trade doesn't matter and showing respect for others doesn't matter. Those things matter terribly. Those are very little matters more than those things. But at the same time, gaining an insight into a business is different from holding someone back in the business, and nobody should be held back. And unfortunately, even though you can talk to anyone, you can go to any job, not comics, but any position, and you will hear the HR departments, you'll hear the people in charge making the statement of nobody gets held back. We don't get in the way of anyone from achieving their full potential. And that's just nonsense. I mean, there's no truth to that whatsoever. There's politics, there's stacking, there's all kinds of things that are often put in place, and the smart workers, smart employees find ways to get around that and reach that audience, achieve that potential, be all they can be anyway. But it's not like corporations, companies, cliques, any kind of industry doesn't make that hard because people want to protect their spot. We get it. Anyway, pay your dues. I'm paying my dues with this YouTube channel. One day I'll have paid these dues, and then I'll have thousands of subscribers and ads everywhere. That's what we're going for. Go ahead and subscribe. You want to be part of that evil plan. Click the bell for notifications. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think. Do you need to pay your dues? How important are these things? Talk to you later.